Mara Barnes was the kind of assistant who could juggle 3 phone calls, a spilled coffee, and a CEO's impossible deadline without breaking a sweat or even messing her hair. Her boss, Theo Hastings, was the kind of man who closed billion-dollar deals before breakfast and never wasted a smile unless it came with a profit margin. They had rules: keep it professional, keep it sharp, and keep it absolutely platonic. But one unexpected business trip, a luxury hotel, and one early morning by a pool would send those rules tumbling down, turning a CEO who didn't believe in distractions into a man who couldn't think of anything else. The elevator doors slid open with their usual soft whoosh, revealing the marble-floored expanse of Hastings & Co., where everything and everyone gleamed. Rows of pristine desks stretched toward windows that framed the morning skyline of New York City. People adjusted their ties, smoothed their blouses, and checked their calendars with the urgency of those who knew the boss was somewhere nearby. At the center of it all, behind a glass wall and a door that might as well have been labeled "Here be dragons," sat Theodore Hastings, CEO, billionaire, and the human embodiment of a perfectly tailored suit. Theo was known for 2 things: turning a casual lunch with an investor into a signed multi-million-dollar deal, and wearing an expression that suggested he'd never heard a joke in his life. The entire office knew the first, and a polite rumor went around about the second. Mara Barnes knew better. She breezed past the receptionist with a coffee in one hand and a manila folder stuffed with reports in the other, her hair already starting to escape in rebellious wisps from the high bun shed. Put it in at 7:15 a.m. Her black pencil skirt was impeccable, but her white shirt bore the faintest evidence of a coffee droplet, invisible to most eyes, but obvious to her. When she reached Theo's office, she didn't knock. She never did. "You have 5 minutes before your 9 a.m. meeting with the Anderson Group," she said, striding in. "I recommend you pretend to be a warm, approachable human until then." Theo looked up from his laptop, his tie already perfectly in place. "I'll handle them with efficiency and a calm demeanor, thank you." She set the folder on his desk. "Also acceptable, but then don't be surprised when Anderson chooses the other guy." He arched a brow. "The other guy is an amateur who thinks Raw is a radio station." Mara grinned. "And yet, you'll walk in there with a smile. It won't kill you to flash one, I promise." For a moment, just a flicker, the corners of his lips curved in the faintest of smiles, the kind you might wonder if you'd imagined. Mara noticed. She always did. "Was that so hard?" she teased, dropping into the chair opposite him. "Don't get used to it," he said, returning his gaze to the laptop. This was how it always was with them, a rapid-fire exchange, a strange blend of exasperation and mutual trust. Mara knew his schedules better than he did, could anticipate his moods by the slightest twitch of his brow, and was one of the few people in the building who wasn't intimidated by him. Once, during a particularly tense board meeting, she passed him a sticky note that read, "Your face says you're planning someone's funeral. Lighten up." He'd kept a straight face, but later she'd caught him chuckling in his office. Now, as she glanced at the clock on the wall, Mara got up to leave. "All right, mister. Efficiency and calm demeanor. Time to charm some money out of the Andersons. It'll be in the corner with the notes in case you forget your lines." Theo didn't look up, but there was that almost smile again. "If I needed prompting, Barnes, I'd just hire someone else." She turned at the door, giving him a bright, fake sweet smile. "You would? And what's the last word on that? Loyalty?" He didn't answer, but his eyes followed her until the door closed. And though neither of them would admit it out loud, they knew their strange, professional dance of insults and perfectly controlled distance was a comfortable part of their day. It was a grey, drizzly Wednesday that made the entire city feel like it needed a nap. Mara was sitting at her desk, surrounded by a fortress of 4 reports and a rapidly cooling mug of coffee. She was halfway through a terrifying drop in overseas revenue when the intercom on her desk gave its sharp, 2-tone chime. Theo's voice came through, smooth and severe. "Mara, my office. Now." "No, not when you have a minute. Just now." It was the verbal equivalent of an order stamped in bold letters. Mara sighed, capped her highlighter, and got up from her chair. She had learned long ago that now meant now, not after finishing her coffee or straightening her skirt. When she pushed open the glass door, Theo was sitting at his desk in his perfectly composed way, jacket on, tie straight, posture like the cover of a Forbes magazine. He didn't look up right away, his fingers flying over the keyboard. "You rang," she said, stepping in and waiting to be invited. "I did," he said, still on the screen. "You're coming with me to Singapore next week." Mara stopped mid-step. "I'm sorry. I think you've mistaken me for your travel buddy. I'm your assistant. I sit here and make sure you don't double book meetings or accidentally buy a shipping company." Theo finally looked up. "It's a business trip. We're meeting with the Lee Group to finalize the West Harbor project. You've managed every single step of this deal. You'll be more useful there than you are here." Mara crossed her arms. "And here I thought I was just the sound of my own voice on a long plane ride. You also have to make sure I don't say something that offends a board of billionaires, which, in case you forgot, is one of my job descriptions. I don't remember signing up for international travel companion." "No," he said simply. "And yet, here we are." She narrowed her eyes. "This is not optional, is it, Hastings?" He leaned back in his chair, his voice firm. "No, it's not." It was the CEO voice, the one that closed deals, intimidated rivals, and made grown men rethink their entire business plans in 30 seconds. Mara had a rebuttal ready on the tip of her tongue, but then she swallowed it. "Fine," she said, with an exaggerated resignation, "but I'm not sharing a room with you, and I expect you to give me a sightseeing break if your schedule allows." Theo's mouth quirked into an almost smile. "Noted." He hesitated just long enough for her to notice. "Also, pack something appropriate. Dress up the corporate amenities." Mara blinked. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," he said, straightening his tie, "that I've seen your other than oversized sweater that you've worn 3 days this week." Her jaw dropped in mock offense. "This sweater is a classic. It's comfortable. It says incompetent and approachable. It says I've given up on life." She gasped theatrically. "One of these days, Hastings, I'm going to teach you about feelings. And one of these days, Barnes," he said evenly, "I'm going to teach you about dressing for success." She grabbed the folder he had certainly put aside for her and shook her head as she turned to leave. "We'll see which happens first." As the door closed behind her, Theo allowed himself the faintest, private of chuckles, the kind no one else would have believed he was capable of. The airport terminal buzzed with the usual chaos of boarding announcements, rolling suitcases, and travelers walking with the purpose of Olympic athletes. Mara was a few paces behind Theo, juggling her laptop bag and the coffee she had stubbornly refused to throw away even after going through security. Theo, of course, carried only one sleek leather briefcase and looked as if the entire travel process had been designed specifically for him. A crisp suit, polished shoes, not a wrinkle in sight. Mara had the distinct impression that if he were dropped in a tornado, he'd emerge on the other side, looking perfect. "You walk too fast," she called out behind him. "You walk too slow," he said over his shoulder without breaking stride. "Some of us have shorter legs, Hastings. Some of us prepare for travel by arriving on time." She caught up with him at the gate, breathing slightly. "For the record, I was on time. You were early. There's a difference." He didn't respond. Instead, he handed his boarding pass to the attendant, who smiled a little too brightly at him before directing them to the jet bridge. Mara caught the look and rolled her eyes. When she got on the plane, Mara gasped. "This is first class," she said, slowly, staring at the plush reclining seats, the glass of champagne already waiting, and the overhead bins that were actually empty. "Yes," Theo answered simply, sliding his briefcase into the bin over his seat. "I'd expect you'd know premium economy at best. You're accompanying me." "I don't fly premium economy." Mara sank into the wide seat next to him, running her hands over the armrest as if she were petting a rare animal. "This is ridiculous. I feel like a cartoon character who accidentally wandered into a jeweler's store." Theo glanced at her. "You clean up well, though." Her head snapped toward him. "I'm sorry." "What?" That dress is better than the sweater. Mara blinked. That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Are you feeling okay? Should I call a doctor? The corner of his mouth twitched. Don't get used to it. As the plane taxied, a flight attendant offered them a selection of menus. Mara studied hers, as if decoding a foreign language. Why are there so many fork options for breakfast? Because it's breakfast in first class. That's why the rich are so ridiculous. He sipped his water. Ridiculous or efficient? Both. They ordered. She went for pancakes with fresh berries. He for an omelette with smoked salmon. And for a while, the conversation reverted to the day's agenda. Mara took out her laptop, pulling up the presentation for their meeting in Singapore, while Theo reviewed financial projections on his tablet. But in the quieter moments, when she was hunched over her keyboard, hair falling loose over her shoulder, Theo found his gaze lingering a little longer. Without her usual armor, her eyes seemed sharper, more alive. He quickly looked back at his own screen. Midway through the flight, a fierce turbulence hit. The plane jolted, and Mara's coffee sloshed dangerously close to her lap. Great, she muttered, gripping the armrest. Remind me again why humans decided flying through the air in a giant metal tube was a good idea. On the other hand, Theo began. If you say dying in a car accident, I'll spill coffee in your lap. He glanced sideways at her, the faintest trace of amusement in his eyes. When the turbulence passed, she relaxed back into her seat, arms crossed. You're terrible at in-flight comfort. I'm the best at everything else. She rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. He noticed it somewhere over the Pacific, as the cabin lights dimmed and most of the travelers dozed. Mara was asleep with her head tilted against the window, the faintest line of a frown creasing her forehead. Theo, who never allowed himself distractions on work trips, found himself watching her for just a moment longer than he should have, and though he would never admit it, the flight felt shorter than usual. A black sedan glided to a stop under the towering glass sails of Marina Bay Sands, and the doorman opened the door with the kind of crisp precision that suggested he had certainly been trained by a military academy. Mara stepped out and immediately forgot how to breathe. The lobby wasn't just big, it was a cathedral. A vast expanse of polished marble stretched under her heels, reflecting a ceiling that climbed into infinity. Above her hung a chandelier the size of her apartment, dripping with crystals that caught the sun pouring in from the glass wall. In the center of the lobby, an arrangement of lotuses and lil rose from a fountain. Mulcha. This is not a hotel, she whispered, turning in a slow circle. This is a Bond villain's lair, if the Bond villain was really into interior design. Theo handed the concierge his credit card without missing a beat. It's efficient, very efficient. Mara stared at him. You could fit my entire childhood home into this lobby twice, maybe 3 times, he smiled. She gave him a look. Careful, Hastings, I might get used to this. Their rooms were on the top floors, suites, naturally, each with a floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the glittering sweep of the bay. Mara walked inside hers and stopped dead. There was a plush king-sized bed in crisp white linens, a seating area with velvet armchairs, and a balcony with a view that made her dizzy. And then she noticed the bathroom. Oh my God, she muttered to herself. The tub wasn't just deep, it was almost pool-sized, set next to a glass wall with a view of the city skyline. A tray already rested across it, stocked with bath salts, champagne flutes, and chocolates. Her phone buzzed. A message from Theo. Dinner in my suite at 7 o'clock. Bring your laptop. She typed back. Did you say dinner meeting or dinner? Dinner meeting. His reply came almost instantly. So, 7 sharp. Mara knocked on his door and was met with the warm scent of something delicious. Steak, she guessed, and the faintest trace of his cologne. His suite mirrored her in layout, but it was much more. Theodore Y. His jacket was slung neatly over a chair, his laptop open on the dining table next to an array of files, and a nearby bottle of wine. You ordered room service, she said, setting her laptop down. Saves us from dining with an investment firm until we have to, he corrected, pouring her a glass. They ate at the table, a casual spread of seared salmon, roasted vegetables, and to her surprise, a basket of warm bread that she devoured with no shame. "You're supposed to be working," Theo teased, watching her butter another piece. "I am working," she said through a mouthful. "I'm working on keeping my blood sugar up, so I can fix your presentation from disaster." "It's not a disaster," he said, automatically. He clicked through her slides and raised an eyebrow. "Slide 4 is missing a comma. Hastings." "It's not." He leaned over, saw it, and muttered, "That's beside the point." She grinned. "Don't worry, I'll save you from public humiliation." They fell into their usual rhythm. She was tweaking his slides, cutting out unnecessary fluff. He was pacing while dictating phrasing on financial projections. But there was something softer about the air tonight. Maybe it was the city lights glittering through the windows. Maybe it was the wine that was softening the edges of their conversation. At one point, she caught him watching her instead of the screen. "What?" she asked. He shook his head. "Nothing. You're just good." She arched an eyebrow. "Careful, Hastings. Another compliment, and people will start thinking you like me." "A dangerous reputation," he said dryly, but his mouth curved just enough for her to wonder. They worked late, long after the plates had been cleared. When she finally closed her laptop, the clock read almost midnight. "Big day tomorrow," she said, gathering her things. Theo nodded, walking her to the door. "Get some rest, Barnes." And as she walked down the hall, she realized he was smiling. The kind of smile you don't notice until you catch yourself doing it. A sequel to the video will be broadcast today. Press the subscribe button to view the continuation of the video.